While I've technically given up on the 19-year-old V40, a recent inquiry from a company that sells leather recolouring products got me wondering to what extent its heavily worn hide could be improved upon DIY style. So stay tuned to see me attempt just that with a deep clean, deglaze, recolour and condition. Following a well-timed inquiry from Clyde's leather company then that came in right after seeing the beaten up driver's seat of the old V40 I'd almost forgotten about, thought I'd get on board with their offer of a feature as it'd be a good opportunity to show something I've never done before, as well as hopefully give the tired Volvo that's nearing the end of its maintainable life a final farewell. So while full-on professional leather restorations are all well and good, they obviously take time, can cost a lot of money and generally aren't something you can do yourself at home. However, Clyde's 4-step leather recolouring kit offers a realistic and affordable DIY alternative to a full-blown restoration, which if done properly and maintained adequately can last up to 10 years. So thought I'd give it a go on some of this aging Swedish leather here, which realistically was never going to be treated to a full professional restoration, but thought might just benefit from an experimental DIY one. As with any kind of restorative work, preparation is key, so first things first was a thorough vacuum of the leather with a soft brush tool including in between the seams to eliminate any trapped bits of dirt which could compromise the recolouring process. So spent a few minutes with the old suction, ensuring everywhere was loose dirt and debris free. Any more ingrained dirt has to be gotten rid of too, which is where Clyde's dedicated foam cleaner comes in. Used in conjunction with a chunky interior brush here, it was thoroughly worked into the grain of the leather before its manky residue was mopped up with a microfibre towel. And thankfully it made light work of the year's worth of grounding grime and helped to illustrate that this leather was definitely beyond a deep clean alone. The next stage before moving on to attempting to recolour the leather was deglazing it, which essentially just means stripping back its protective coating, which I'm pretty sure was long gone on this leather, but it didn't do any harm to give it a once over with Clyde's potent prep solution here just in case. And if you're unsure if your leather needs deglazing prior to recolouring or not, then you can drop a bit of water onto it, and if it soaks in, it's lightly uncoated and can technically be recoloured following just a clean. However, if it remains on the surface, then it's still protected, so it will need to be thoroughly deglazed to allow the special recolouring agents to properly penetrate. So with the basic prep work complete, it was time to move on to recolouring using Clyde's Recolouring Balm, which is designed to be massaged over the surface with a soft sponge in multiple light coats, knocking it back afterwards with a damp towel to remove any visible streaks if needs be, which is exactly what I did to start with here, both to get a good feel for the product and to illustrate to you how it's supposed to be applied. It's probably worth noting at this point that aside from the driver's bolster on the rear of the seat, I'd only really be focusing on the base of it here, as I wasn't sure how long the recolouring process would take and didn't want to shoot myself in the foot by attempting too much. But the flat base and the warm rear bolster were still more than enough for a first timer like myself. Now, because parts of this seat were so deeply cracked and worn, light coats of the balm weren't realistically going to cut it on them, so decided to apply it more heavily over these compromised areas to essentially fill them with the balm before wiping them over with the damp towel to remove any excess and level things out, which seemed to work surprisingly well. So once I'd filled the crusty cracks with the balm and left them to dry for a bit, went on to try a few more light to moderate coats both on camera and off. But with the state of the leather and the fact I think I'd requested too light a shade of beige, the standard application technique wasn't really going to achieve enough of a recolouring effect here, so made the executive decision to break the rules and dab a few heavier layers of the stuff over the neglected surface instead, which, while definitely not the recommended way of doing things, certainly helped to quickly cover the multitude of sins that lay beneath. Now, I could of course have stripped the lighter coloured balm back, requested a more appropriate shade from Clyde's and started again in a week or so once that had arrived and when the car was available and the weather was okay. But I'd come this far and struggled to get content out in a timely manner as it is, so decided to try and take advantage of the setback and use it as an opportunity to see if the product could adequately recolour to a completely different shade, as my thinking was that if it could, then surely it would be more than capable of sorting out more appropriately matched leather. Looking back, a foam paintbrush probably would have been a better option, as that would have ensured a smoother finish than stippling, but as I say, I haven't done anything like this before and was just testing things out with a neglected car on the fly. But despite that, the stippling still served to progressively cover the darker and more worn leather below, as did a bit of light brushing in and around the tighter bits with one of the supplied soft bristled items that I did have to hand. So with a few decent coats of Recolouring Balm stippled and dabbed over the surface, then I whipped the hairdryer out to speed up the minimum recommended curing time of 24 hours by lightly fanning it over for a fair few minutes until it was dry to the touch, before letting it sit for another hour or so while I rested my stipply fingers. Once thoroughly dry, it was then time to seal that new lighter shade in with Clyde's beeswax infused moisturising cream, which helps to both protect the finish and keep it nice and supple. So went ahead and worked a healthy amount of the quality feeling odourless product in with a nice soft microfibre towel, so as not to ruffle the feathers of the freshly recoloured surface, ensuring all parts of it saw a decent helping before gently wiping it all down one last time to make sure there wasn't any excess product present. And while it's hard to see any difference in the finish here due to the colour and low light, did also give it a go on both my own well-maintained 10-year-old whitish grey leather and Repro Eames Ottoman, which has seen a year's worth of sweaty feet without being treated to anything other than a quick vac. So worked both the old Japanese and new Italian leather over with the cream to impart a nice rich sheen and keep it smooth and supple for months to come. So while the worn Volvo seat didn't exactly go to plan, that wasn't due to any incapabilities of the product, but rather the fact I'd requested too light a shade of it. But despite the colour differentiation, which really wasn't an issue on this particular old beater whose days are well and truly numbered, the base of the seat and the heavily worn back bolster thankfully now weren't anywhere near the eyesore they were to begin with. Now, to try and illustrate that you can actually use the product as intended, decided to give the living room leather couch that the dog likes to use a good going over with it as well, as it looked to be a better match for the light beige. So laid a bit of tape down for a straight before and after, prior to thoroughly cleaning and prepping the surface as before to ensure there was nothing on it, whether that be dog related dirt or protective factory coating. Once clean, it was then given a few light coats of Clyde's Recolouring Balm, working it right up to and over the edge of the tape and gently blending it off elsewhere to try and give you an idea of the kind of thing it can do when used correctly, whether straight along the edge of a panel or tapered off inside of one. It was then allowed to adequately cure overnight before being treated to a condition with the moisturising cream, which I still thankfully had plenty of. Then, once gently buffed over one final time, the tape was removed to reveal a more appropriate example of the recolouring kit's true capabilities. So while things don't always go according to plan in the real world, especially when working with older, more neglected cars that can often prove to be a can of worms, I'd rather share my hiccups with you in quality content form rather than force you to go without for the sake of saving face. Now, if, unlike me, you're actually capable of following simple instructions and ordering correctly coloured products, which, by the way, Clyde are more than happy to help you with, then you can grab their effective 4-step recolouring kit for yourself via the link in the description below. But for now, thanks for watching, and of course, be sure to stay tuned for more.